Alright, so in this video I'm going to be machining this aluminum part here. It's got quite a bit going on. I think it's some type of valve body. It's got holes coming in from the top, the bottom, the sides, and at different angles, all intersecting. Yeah, it's a pretty tricky part to make. So the first thing that I'm going to do is machine the front side, then flip it over, machine the back side, and then I'll have the body of the part, and it just needs a bunch of holes put in it. Now what I did to put the holes in on the side, since I got to rotate it at a bunch of different angles, is I'm going to make a 4th axis, a rotary fixture to hold it in my indexer. So this is the machining of that fixture, and you can see the solid rendering there in the bottom left corner. So after I get done making this fixture, then I'll be able to put it in my rotary indexer, and it's a manual style, which I think it'd be pretty nice if I could get a CNC indexer at some point in time. But this works pretty good. So then I've got a couple of screws that go in through the holes in the part and hold that on there, and I'll be able to rotate the part to the different angles and put in all the holes in the side of the part. And then this part had some ports in it that had several undercuts in the sidewalls and a chamfer that went into the port, and then a O-ring groove. And what I did was I designed a tool that could machine those undercuts all at the same time. I was pretty much maxed out in the amount of tools that I was using to machine this part, since it had quite a bit of different features going on with different size holes. So having that tool put in all those undercuts and doing the chamfer and the O-ring groove at once will save me a few tool changes and tool holder positions in my carousel. And I made a video on the designing and making of that tool, so be sure to check that out. Now the tool, I tried to get it quoted out of carbide, but I couldn't get a quote for making that tool out of carbide, so I wound up making it myself out of some M2 tool steel and having it heat treated. Now the tool did wind up deflecting more towards the bottom than the top, so I had to go in there with I made 3 tools total. So I took one of the tools and I ground away the top part and just left the bottom 2 areas for doing the cutouts, and I had to go back in with that tool to be able to comp the bottom out enough to bring both the bottom and the top of that those undercuts to size. So another thing that was kind of a bummer on this part, besides having to make a custom tool to cut those undercuts, was that I didn't really have a way to measure the diameter of those undercuts. So I needed to buy an internal caliper gauge, and the retail price on those are pretty expensive if I was to buy it from a tool distributor. But I was able to find a Mitutoyo internal dial caliper gauge on eBay, and I was able to get it in soon enough time, and came out pretty good on that. I got it for about half price, so that saved me a little bit of money. Especially considering that This is a tool that I'm most likely only going to be using for this job. So yeah, I'm going to wind up with a pretty nice tool after this, but inspection tool. But I don't really see a future use for it. So yeah, it is what it is. Well, that's what you got to do when you're quoting jobs like this, is you got to try and think about everything that you're going to wind up needing to do the work. And if you don't got any of that on hand, you need to work that into your quote. Like for instance, I had to buy some tooling, such as drills and end mills and some cutters that I was able to get from a distributor in order to do this job. Then I had to buy the internal caliper gauge, and then I had to make that special cutter to do those cutouts on those ports. So yeah, you got to try and think of all that stuff and work it into the quote. But all in all, it worked out pretty good. The tool did roll some burrs, but I just went in there afterwards with the tools that I use for putting in the IDs of those holes and cleaned it up, and part came out nice. And there it is. The part is done. This part took quite a bit of time to do. A lot going on this part, but came out pretty nice. Got it done. And hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a good one.